Hi, I'm Kate Adams. I currently work at an organisation called the Forward Institute in London, in the UK. I live just outside London with my family. So I actually spend some time in my current role coaching, although typically more unofficially than officially. And then outside of my, I suppose, day job, I also offer coaching to sustainability professionals who are looking for support or they're a bit stuck, so I can help them with the work they're trying to do to hopefully improve the organisation they work in and the impact it has on the planet. How I first discovered coaching, it's interesting actually, 'cause I was a really sporty kid, and so I actually knew all about coaching from a sports angle. I played a lot of netball and tennis and hockey and swimming, and if you want to get better at sport, you have a coach. It's a concept that I've never really thought about. It's around a technical skill and sport. And so I was aware of it from a long time ago. And then when I entered the work environment just over 20 years ago, I suppose, I was being coached and mentored by people and didn't really acknowledge it as such, but found it really helpful. And then I was lucky enough, I got to a stage in my career where other people started asking me questions. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. How do I help them and not tell them the answers? How do I help people to learn? So actually, I have been, I suppose, mentoring people, which is different to coaching, but really wanted to understand how I could help coach people, which, as I say, is different to mentoring. So how could I help other people who already have the answers within them to bring them out? So I guess I've always been familiar with a form of coaching, which comes in many different guises, but the way of actually coaching people to support them in their own decision making, I've been much more familiar with in the last 18 months since I've been doing my coach training and practicing. It was recommended to me by a good friend, Tracy Sinclair's Science and Art Coaching Training Programme. That's where I trained as a coach. It's a group of, I think, about 7 of us in that cohort that Tracy took through that journey. We finished that around 18 months ago now. Really enjoyed it and really helped me have the space to think about what does it mean to be a coach. And there are times that I felt so exposed, but it was such a nice, safe environment with people we've become friends with and still in touch with, to think about how do you ask these questions. You start by thinking, how can I help this person? You try so hard that actually you realise you try too hard and you ask silly questions. So that programme really took us through the competency side, gave us the space to practice, gave us the safe space to make mistakes, gave us the space to watch other people do well, do less well, and support them and feedback. And so actually just a really nice environment to learn and grow in. And Tracy's so good at providing that space and supportive environment that I have to say, I think I often felt nervous about how I don't know, I guess when you've come from a consulting background, it's always about having the answers, and actually coaching is about having the questions. And Tracy was brilliant at really shifting my brain into that gear, and it's really changed the way I think since. I'm really pleased that I've done some official training. There's a lot of coaches out there that are coaches and maybe aren't trained. So I'm really pleased to have done the proper training. That's definitely helped me, definitely shifted something in my ability to be a coach. And then I think also acknowledging I've still got lots more practice to do. So I think there's always times when you have a coaching session, sometimes the chemistry is really there and the session goes really well. Other times maybe you just couldn't quite get what you thought you hoped the client would want. So I think it's one of those things that keep practicing, keep getting more experienced at, and will improve. And I'm really lucky in my current day job at the Forward Institute enables me to have the opportunity to speak to people and ask them very sort of probing questions. And to be honest, as coaches, we have formal coaching sessions, but I think in just the way we work with organisations and partner with individuals within them, coaching is such a fundamental way of building a stronger relationship. So in terms of how I'm using the training in my everyday working role, I'm lucky enough to have a role at a place called the Forward Institute. We work with senior leaders in the UK around those that have committed to wanting to have a responsibility in their role around the role they're playing in society. And that's not an easy thing. It's a very sort of fashionable thing at the moment for organisations to talk about their purpose, to talk about sustainability. In fact, it's not a new thing, but it's definitely got a tailwind behind it at the moment. And it's a really hard thing as a leader to do and to be, we're finding. There's a lot of media scrutiny when people say, yes, we're trying to make a better society. So people then seem to look at where you're going wrong when actually you're trying to do right, and it's deeply human. So what we learn and what we know at the Ford Institute, we work with a lot of the big organisations that have either huge numbers of employees, the societies within them, or huge numbers of customers, the societies very influenced by them, or regulators like the Bank of England who are setting interest rates. These are people that have the ability in their very senior roles to affect society and others beyond just their organisation. So once they've signed up for that, that's a big commitment, and we really need leaders to do that. But how to do it is challenging. So we work with them, and it's really coaching skills around the kind of questions, holding up mirrors for them, trying to evoke awareness in how they do it, maybe building resilience at a time when it's not going the way that they'd really like it to, supporting them when there's the challenges, sharing maybe in group coaching as well, how others who have got the same challenge are tackling it, and holding that space for peers in senior leadership roles to have a really safe place to share, this is what's going wrong, this is what's going right, how could I help you with your challenge. So there's a huge role there for coaching skills in when we need leaders who are going to lead society to progress and think about better futures for more people, and not just think about maybe the traditional metrics that have driven business performance. That's a difficult commitment. It's not about action in terms of policies. A lot of the time it's coming through in policies around ESG policies and reporting. It's actually about a deeply human way of listening and empathy and being aware and thinking about diverse perspectives and multiple perspectives. Some you don't want to hear actually, but will really help you grow as an individual and maybe help you see things from a different standpoint and help you be a better leader. So it's hugely valuable to have lots of what questions which come out when you do your coach training, but just understand how to hold that space, how to hold silence. And for many of these leaders, their jobs are so full and so fast and so constantly being disrupted. The ability to have some super precious time with them to allow them to think and to reflect is so valuable. So it's an utter privilege to be able to hold that space with these people that are genuinely trying to pioneer a different society for us. From a professional side, I've specifically wanted to focus on professionals who are working in social impact, whether that's around the environment, whether that's social impact, and just how we need them to succeed in their careers, all of us do. So helping them, even in some small way, hopefully has a bit of a contribution. I've had a career in social impact for over 15 years. I had an initial career in HR consultancy, and then I moved into what's called Comic Relief here in the UK, so a big charity that runs fundraising campaigns. And then from there, I've met lots of organisations that it funds and chaired one of those, which was incredible, a charity called Missing People. I've been involved in an organisation called Nesta here in the UK, which is a charitable foundation looking at innovation for social good. I've been involved in the Paralympics Association. My eldest brother is disabled. He was born prematurely and has cerebral palsy, and having a sporting background, the ability to bring the social impact side, the personal side and the sports side together has been incredible. So I've managed to have a career in lots of different aspects of social impact that have been passion areas as well as professional areas for me. And now I work specifically around, it's less social impact and more actually, it's funny because over the years, the 15 years I've been doing it, social impact and the corporate world have come closer and closer together, and that's wonderful to see. So I now kind of work at the nexus there, where I work with leaders on the role they're playing in society. So that's where some of my coaching work also comes in. So the role they're playing as leaders of an organisation that does affect society in some way, typically a large way if you're a large employer, or you sell lots of products or services, or you have a big carbon footprint, or things like that. You have factories around the world. So actually, how do we help leaders to think consciously about that? So what drives my passion for social impact and coaching is this sense of people and potential and progress. We are extraordinary as people, and good and bad, we're all hypocrites whether we like it or not. But that sense of we can do extraordinary things, and sometimes we just need somebody to help us see that. and how coaching plays such a critical role in that, to help people believe that they have the permission to do what they need to do, the skills to do what they need to do, and the answers. It's just really encouraging them and helping them find the energy and opportunity to do that. It's amazing how I did these thinking it would be more in the workplace, but I have to be honest, I've actually been a better parent as a result. Just the listening, playing questions back, and being more curious and leaning into why the kids feel like they feel. So often with children, and I think parenting's really shifting, but it's acknowledging how they feel is really important. Whether you want to talk about the feelings or not is up to people, but actually just acknowledging the feeling. And I think coaching really teaches you to be right in the present. And so often, whether it's parenting or work, we're on to the next thing already. And I think the coaching skills around just stopping and saying, how really are you? Or what did that mean to you? Or you just used this word a couple of times. What does that word mean to you? And just trying to unpack and understand what's happening in that brain and of a child, when we think we can assume what's in their brain. And actually that's dangerous, really dangerous. I have a fear of the world that the kids are growing up in around social media and external referencing and perfect looking lives. But if I don't know what's going on, then I can't help, and that must be one of the worst feelings as a parent, to feel helpless. And so that sense of that coaching dialogue and that creating that space and working hard on it just to keep that dialogue going, and her to feel like I'm not going to judge, but coaches don't judge, that I'm going to ask curious questions, that I'm going to help her be aware of her own actions, but not me tell her, but say, what do you think that meant to someone else right then? How do you think someone felt when you did that? So I think that's the way I'm using it. So actually in my little domestic world, I'm hoping that I'm raising my kids to feel more listened to and able to shape their thinking and their decision making. So I think it's been really impactful in that way. I should say friendships too. Just that sense of when I suddenly realised my brain's going off into a different mode of trying to find solutions for people, fix things. It's like, it's just not what we need to do. It's probably not what the person needs right now. So having the skill set to actually just stop and go, no, just make it about the other person. That's all it needs to be. It isn't about me right now. It's about them. And so actually, I think a lot of friendships and relationships have improved on that basis. So that's quite a personal side to it. I think in the long-term future, my plan is to use these coaching skills to do more independent advisory work. So for the next 5 to 10 years, I'm really enjoying having gone back into a sort of full-time role where I get to use my coaching skills within them, and definitely a large part of my day job involves coaching skills. And then I think that toolkit is one that I can then take as I think about a life plan and think about maybe coming further away from urban life, and I've got a dream of living by the beach one day, and how I can actually take that skill set into a different geography and use it still as a way to earn money, to help people, to drive passion, to learn and be curious. I think that's what I love about the coaching skill set, is that it never stops. You never stop using it.